In today's Top 10 video, we're looking at the top 10 most valuable American coins, and in at number 10, it's a silver dollar from 1794. If you don't think there isn't much to say about coins, think again. This rare chunk of metal is the subject of an entire book, Martin A. Lodge's The Flowing Hair Silver Dollars of 1974, a historical and population census study, which documents the appearances of over 125 different examples of the valuable coin over the years. Buy the book because it's certainly a lot cheaper than the $2.1 million you'll have to pay to get your hands on one of these pieces of early Americana. In at number 9, the 1870s $3 gold piece. Records reveal that one and only one specimen of the 1870s $3 gold coin was struck, specifically to be sealed within the cornerstone of the new San Francisco Mint building at the corner of 5th and Mission Streets. This was done on May the 25th, 1870, so how is it then that a second example turned up 37 years later and was able to fetch a stunning $687,500 at auction back in 1982? Time and rarity have driven up its value to the point that today, this same tiny gold piece will set you back a cool $2.5 million. Number 8, 1873 CC Liberty Seated Dime. One of the great Wild West artifacts, this coin is said to be the only unique issue from the Carson City Mint, which filled its coins with gold plucked from nearby mines. Curious that with all the gold coins the Carson City Mint made, its most valuable coin, at just over $2.5 million a copy, would be a silver dime. Actually, there were 12,400 no-arrows dimes minted in 1873 at the Carson City Mint, but because of the Mint Act of February 12, 1873, most of them were melted down, leaving only a handful for major collectors to fight over. Number 7, 1885 Trade Silver Dollar. Designed by William Barber, for some reason only 5 proof copies of this coin were ever printed. In January 2006, an authentic 1885 trade dollar, which was previously owned by the legendary King of Coins banker Louis E. Eliasberg Sr., was sold for $3.3 million at an auction in Dallas, Texas. The buyer's identity remains unknown. What it's worth today is anybody's guess. Number 6, 1849 Coronet $20 gold piece. Only one example of this coin is known to exist, and that specimen is locked away in the National Numismatic Collection at the Smithsonian Institute, making it unavailable at any price to collectors. Besides being the ultimate rarity, this is also a coin with exceptional historical significance, for it is the very first US double eagle, or $20 gold piece ever made, plus it was issued as a direct result of the California gold rush. Some believe that if this coin ever became available to collectors, it could fetch as much as $4 million. Number 5, 1861 Coronet $20 gold piece. Production of this coin was stopped by the US Mint due to late-breaking design revisions, but authorities did not receive word until after a few of the coins had already been produced and put into circulation. Just 2 examples are known, although a third example of the 1861 Paquette double eagle has been rumored to exist, and one of them can be yours if you can cough up just $5.6 million. Number 4, 1804 $10 gold piece. For some reason, fewer than 10 of these coins were ever produced, and only 3 of them are currently known to exist. Adding to the novelty, the coins were minted in 1834, 3 decades after the date on the coin, to be used in diplomatic presentations, making them part of one of the most famous sets in American coinage. While the 1804 silver dollar, also struck at this later date, is much better known, the eagle is even more rare, and as such is seldom offered at auction. The only piece which has ever been offered in recent times was the one contained in the King of Siam set, a complete proof set in its original case, which sold for $8.5 million in 2005. Of course, you don't have to spend that much to get one of the other 2 proof coins, you can get it for just $6 million. Number 3, 1913 Liberty Nickel. Although it seems only a fool would pay upwards of $6 million for a 5-cent coin, this particular piece of metal is highly unusual because it was somehow produced without the knowledge of its maker, the US Mint. Not much is known about the actual minting of the 1913 Liberty Head nickels. Since the mints were to start production of the famous Buffalo nickels that year, no Liberty Head type nickels were meant to be minted that year. However, the die for the nickel, bearing the year 1913, had already been produced and delivered, and it is believed that 5 specimens were struck at the Philadelphia Mint before the die could be destroyed. One theory says that the coins were struck as advanced test pieces, while another theory proposes that someone illegally struck the 5 specimens before the dies were destroyed. In either case, it's clear the valuable coins left the mint in some unauthorized fashion and didn't surface until 1920, after the statute of limitations for theft had safely run out. Apparently, US Treasury officials have concluded that they were legally struck, making it possible to own one of the 5 known examples, if you can afford the price tag. Number 2. 1933 Saint-Gaudens $20 gold piece. Selling at auction in 2002 for a measly $7.5 million and thought to be worth at least $10 million today, while it's not the most valuable coin, the 1933 Double Eagle is perhaps the rarest and most famous. Although 445,500 double eagles had been minted with the 1933 date, none were released into circulation because of changes made to currency laws during the Great Depression, which took America off the gold standard. Once it became illegal for private citizens to own gold coins, the mint melted down the entire 1933 run of gold double eagles and converted them into gold bullion bars. However, there is evidence that a mint cashier may have absconded with up to 20 of these expensive coins, which he sold over the years to various collectors. Once the government found out, however, they confiscated them, and as such, besides 2 examples made specifically for the Smithsonian Institute, only one example, a specimen owned by Egypt's King Farouk, remains. At least that was the case until 10 more examples were discovered in 2004 by an heir to one of the jewelers who originally sold a number of the earliest specimens, and their fate remains the source of considerable legal wrangling between the heiress and the government over their fate while they languish at Fort Knox. It will be interesting to see, should the 10 coins ever come to market, if the 1933 Double Eagle will retain its place as the world's highest priced coin when the number of available specimens increases tenfold. Stay tuned. Number 1. The 1804 silver dollar, the most valuable coin in America. The all-time most valuable coin one can own, a specimen in top condition can be worth as much as $47 million. With only 19 known copies known to exist, it's also the envy of numisticists across the country thanks to its rarity, design, and beauty. What's most curious about these most valuable coins is the fact that no silver dollars were minted in 1804. Actually, over $19,000 were minted that year, but they bore the year 1803 and were indistinguishable from those minted in the previous year. In fact, silver dollars dated 1804 did not appear until 1834, when the US State Department decided to create sets of coins to present as gifts to certain rulers in Asia in exchange for trade concessions. The US government ordered the mint to produce 2 specimens of each kind, now in use, whether of gold, silver, or copper, and since the silver dollar was still in use but had been recorded as produced in 1804, mint employees struck several dollars with the 1804 date. Additionally, an enterprising employee of the mint in Philadelphia illegally struck a few dozen more examples between 1858 and 1860 using the old 1804 die, most of which were confiscated and destroyed, but a few of which remain in private collections today. So I really hope you enjoyed that video, and I'd love to know what you think of it, so please leave a comment below. I'm also going to link over to another video that you might enjoy, so just click on that thumbnail on the screen now, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we put out a new video 7 days a week, and you can also visit us online. Just go to TopTenz.net. Thanks for watching.